I think we have liftoff then, everyone. Welcome to a merged IGLTA Members Connect call. I'm Loanne Halden, VP of Communications for IGLTA. I think I know most of you, but just for those of you who might not have seen me on this call before. And I am here to introduce Christopher Brace. He is the founder and CEO of Syntegrate Consulting. And I actually heard him speak on another LGBT group call led by Ed Salvato a while ago. And I just thought it would be great to bring him into the IGLTA community to hear a new voice and perspective. He has 25 years of experience in global marketing, including a lot of work with tourism and travel brands. And a couple of the things that struck me about hearing him speak was that although he has also worked with a lot of large brands, he's very supportive of small businesses as well. And I thought that would really resonate with our members. And his particular passion is helping brands tell stories that resonate. And so the topic today is emotion in decision making. And I think given all of the emotions running through our communities right now, there's a lot to be said about that. So thank you so much for being with us, Christopher, and take it away.
All right, Loanne, thank you very much. I'm very excited to be here. I really appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to talk to you guys about something that I am deeply passionate about, and that is really the role that emotion plays in how human beings make decisions. And specifically, we are, hold on one second, let me just get, okay, can everybody see the presentation?
Yes, it's coming up.
Yes.
All right. So specifically, we are going to talk about the role of emotion within the context of what you guys do, which is really talking about how travelers really make their decisions. I want to start with this visual. So you see a bunch of guitars. So there is a physics principle. It's called the principle of resonance. As resonance increases, dissonance decreases. So if you were to take 30 acoustic guitars, have them all perfectly tuned, and hang them on a wall, if you then took an electric guitar, also perfectly tuned, plug it into an amplifier, and you were to pluck the E string, guess what happens to the E string on all of those acoustic guitars? It will automatically vibrate. It resonates. You never even have to touch the E string on those acoustic guitars. So taking that physics principle of resonance and applying it to marketing, as emotional resonance increases, behavioral resistance decreases. So really the gist of what we're going to talk about today is how you create emotional resonance. The application of emotional resonance is when you understand what are the emotional and behavioral hurdles that you need to overcome with your guests in order to increase your business, you can then define what is the E string for your brand and your business, and then how do you pluck that through your creative. It could be something as simple as your website. If you do any type of digital and social advertising, Google ads, Facebook ads, it's all in the creative, the visuals, the copy that you write. You want those two things to pluck the E string that you've defined for your brand. So I want to talk a little bit about the science of all of this. So I think a lot of times, and this is not just applicable to travel, this is every industry in which I've ever worked. We have this belief that people's travel decisions are triggered by reasoning and logic. So if I can create communications that talk about all my attributes combined with the right price point or package offering, then I'm going to win their decision. I'm going to get their travel dollars. But in reality, travel decisions are triggered by emotion. Then we bring our reasoning and logic skills to that decision. Here's a really interesting fact. 95% of the human decision-making process occurs in the non-conscious part of our brain. That means any decision that your potential travelers and tourists are going to make about their destination decisions or transportation or accommodation, only 5% of those decisions occur in the conscious part of their brain. Now, how do we know that emotion plays such a big role? Fundamentally, our brains are emotional at their very core. We are an emotional species. And number two, whenever we are faced with a choice, it is our emotional wiring that exerts the first force on our decisions. Then we bring in reasoning and logic. So here's a really great quote. Jonathan Turner is a sociologist and a psychologist. He wrote a very difficult book to get through called On the Origins of Human Emotion. Basically, he kind of goes through the process of human evolution and how we as a species developed emotion. And I'm just going to read this to you, but it's the underlying part that's most important. To select among alternatives requires some way to assess the relative value of these alternatives. And this ability is tied to emotions. Emotions give each alternative a value and thereby provide a yardstick to judge and to select among alternatives. And this, in humans, this happens at the non-conscious level. So basically, here's how this would play out. If I were to ask 5 of you to add 1 plus 2 plus 3, you would hopefully all come up with 6. But if I were to ask 5 of you to choose between 4 desserts, a brownie, a chocolate sundae, cheesecake, and cherry pie, are you all going to pick the exact same dessert? Of course not. You're going to pick different ones. Why? Because you have to apply emotion to choosing which dessert you want. You do not need to apply emotion to adding 1 plus 2 plus 3. So your brand, the meaning that people have around your brand, there are 3 different levels. The first is what we call the very surface level. This is where you are talking about the physical attributes of the product that you offer, the physical attributes and the functional benefits. So if you look at any destination in the Caribbean, any destination that has anything to do with warm weather and beaches, they talk about beaches and sunshine, and everybody else talks about we have great food, we have great culture, we have great music. This is a very transactional and short-term level. The next, what we call deep, is now you're talking about an emotional end benefit. If you come to our beaches and sunshine, you will have a fun and relaxing time. If you come to our gay ski week, our gay wine week, or whatever, you are going to connect with people, or you're going to go somewhere and have an adventure. This is still transactional and short-term, and here's why. Emotional end benefits like fun, relaxing, connection, adventure, discovery, those are all category level emotional end benefits. That means anybody who is in your category can say those exact same things. So years ago, I worked for J. Walter Thompson, and we had the Bermuda Department of Tourism was our client. And we did a disruption video where we took visuals from every single competitor in that space. So Bermuda, and then we pulled everything from the Caribbean and just put together one long video that just was a bunch of beaches and water adventure. And just to show that everybody in this category is saying the exact same thing. What you want to strive for is number 3. This is the deepest. This is what we call validation of beliefs and attitudes. And we're going to discuss what each of those are. This is not transactional. It is relational. It is not short-term. It is long-term. This is where you build loyalty to your brand. And this is basically, you believe the following emotional things, which is why we also believe them. Another way of saying it is, you believe in blank, that is my E string. So we believe in blank, it is our E string. Now, here's a very simple example of the difference between transactional and short-term and relational and long-term. This is a Michelin ad. I'm just going to let you guys read it. I would ask you, is there anything in here that's emotional? Do you feel anything in here that's emotional? Or do you really see this as a very straightforward product attribute and benefit ad? Now take a look at this one. This is very different. I'm guessing you're having a very different relationship to this one. You will notice that all of the copy in the lower right-hand corner, you can't even read that. And the question is, do you even need to read it? This is a perfect example of defining what is emotionally meaningful to people who buy tires. It's because they're carrying incredibly precious cargo. And when you have something that plucks an E string that is this clear, you really don't need to sell people because you're connecting with them. You are engaging them in your story. Then you are in the perfect position to do what we all need to be doing, which is inspiring them to choose your brand. So this is a quote from a gentleman. His name is Gerald Zaltman. He was a professor at Harvard. He now has his own consulting firm. This is a book called How Customers Think. So this is specifically about how people shop. And I'm not going to read this one. I'll let you read it. But I'll just talk about the really clear points. Basically, here's what Dr. Zaltman is saying, is that whenever anybody is shopping for something, and I don't care if they're shopping in a grocery store, in a department store, consumer electronics store, or they're online looking for what is going to be our next vacation destination, how are we going to get there, and where are we going to stay, and what tours are we going to take, all of those decisions are an expression of their values embodied in the person's norms around travel. What we need to do then as advertisers is activate those norms by plucking that E string. All of this stuff, this emotional stuff, comes from our lives as consumers, not as shoppers, or in your world, as people who live our lives normally, and then we become tourists. So to put this really in the context for your business, a traveler's destination, transportation, and accommodations decisions are really an expression of their values embodied related to travel. So what we need to understand is, what does Dr. Zaltman mean by values? Well, there are four terms that we need to define: behaviors, attitudes, beliefs, and values. These four things shape what we call your lens, your worldview. It is through these four things that we process every piece of stimuli that then drive our behaviors. So there is a hierarchy. First, we develop values, then beliefs, then attitudes. Those all combine to then drive our behaviors. Now, let's look at each of them separately. Values are basically, these are the abstract principles. These are representative of one's moral character. So things like, I value family, love, sympathy, empathy, patriotism, equality, inclusiveness, diversity, whatever those are. We start developing our values the minute that we're born. Now, when it comes to strategy and communications and insight, we cannot actually own values. You cannot build an entire brand on trust. It's not ownable. You can't build an entire communications campaign on honesty. It's not ownable. Where values become incredibly important, values determine how we behave outwardly towards our guests. we will always treat our guests with respect, transparency, empathy, and honesty. The next thing we develop are our beliefs. Now, a belief is anything you hold to be true about yourself, others, and the world around you, whether those things are actually true or not. So, for example, I believe I am smart. I am deserving of love. I believe people are generally good. I believe the world is full of opportunity. But these are also equally valued, are equally valued. Yes, I believe I am not smart. I am not deserving of love. People suck, and so does the world. Those are equally valid beliefs as long as I believe them to be true. The next thing we develop then are our attitudes. And an attitude is just a judgment of a situation or a set of circumstances. So for example, today, everybody came to this presentation with an attitude. That attitude is shaped by two things. It is shaped by the beliefs you have around your business and learning and educating yourself and exposing yourself to new information. It is also, your attitude is also shaped by previous experiences of having guest speakers at a meeting. Those beliefs and previous experiences help shape your attitude, which then in turn are now shaping your behaviors on this call. When we talk about the E string is a combination of the beliefs and the attitudes that are driving the behaviors in your business. The beliefs and attitudes represent the emotional truths. What is most emotionally meaningful to your audience in relation to your business? So Ed and I worked on a shared accommodations business in the LGBTQ market. We did global research with people, and we talked about why people travel. Not why do they choose the accommodation they choose or how they do that. It is why they travel in the first place. So these are some of the beliefs and attitudes combined to be emotional truths relevant to even your audience and why people travel. We picked a particular emotional territory, the territory of discovery and travel. You have a set of beliefs. Those beliefs are applied to specific situations, and we applied it here to just traveling in general and then traveling with a partner. So if I have the belief of life is about discovery and exploration, so when it comes to traveling, my attitudes are discovery is part of my experience as a human being, or I want to experience as much of the world as possible. I behave by, and then you see those behaviors. You can take those same beliefs and then apply them to the situation of traveling with my partner, and you will see there are a different set of attitudes that then drive a different set of behaviors. These beliefs and attitudes are potentially some of the E strings for your businesses. Now, the question is, this is lovely, and you might be thinking, oh, this is really interesting, but what the hell does anybody do with this? So here's what we did. There's a gentleman here in the United States who has a business called Out in the Vineyard. So basically he does, his two big events are Gay Wine Week and Pink Sonoma Saturday. So went to his website and we pulled the page for Gay Wine Week. This is basically right now how he talks about Gay Wine Week on his website. And it's lovely. You will notice it is very just the facts, ma'am. Tell me about the event. What are my attributes? What are some of the higher emotional benefits? It's very fact-based. It covers all the right information, but it's missing those emotional truths. So oftentimes when I talk to clients about this, they immediately frame in their head, oh, I have a choice of talking about emotional meaning or talking about the facts of my business. It is never a question of either or. It is always a combination of the two. Now, for a business like Gay Wine Week, it is not only just about why people travel, but it is really about how do people connect over wine in a way that is different how they might connect going on a gay ski weekend or going to a gay pride event, for example. This is an event that's all built around wine. So we looked at a bunch of stuff to determine do people connect differently over wine than they do over beer, cocktails. And this is just a little chart here that says, on a spectrum of relaxing to high energy, wine is more down on the relaxing side. Cocktails are much more high energy, and beer kind of straddles the two. We also asked people, when you're sitting down with a friend and you are doing the interactions on the left, I'm venting, I'm seeking advice, we're socializing outdoors at a pool party or a barbecue, and on down the list, what are your preferred beverages? And you will notice wine is the most diverse, the most flexible and adaptable of all the choices. But what was very clear is that wine leads to a deeper, more personal and meaningful connection than the others. So we then looked at what are the E strings around building, maintaining, and deepening relationships. So once again, you have some beliefs on the left. You have different situations. These situations are, how do I first make friends? How do I then maintain those friendships? And then how do I deepen those friendships? So think about, just take a second and think about just even one or two of your best friends and read through these. And hopefully you're going to go, yeah, this is exactly right. This is exactly how I build relationships with other human beings. How we build relationships with human beings is exactly how we build relationships with brands. It is no different. So what we did then was we took those emotional truths and we simply rewrote this page. And I'm not going to read this for you. I'm just going to give you a minute to read it. So you can see we are saying all of the same information. We're covering all the facts, ma'am, but we are telling it within the context of what we already know is emotionally meaningful to the Gay Wine Week audience. People are inspired by emotion. They are not inspired by bullet points and facts. So I just think in travel and tourism and the world in which you guys exist every day, there are very few things in life that are as deeply emotional as travel and tourism. I think even specifically in the LGBTQ plus community, we have even a stronger connection to this experience of humanity. And it's transformative. We heard so many people talk about travel is not just something I do to relax. Travel helps me grow. It helps me see my partner in a very different situation. In situations that we don't see at home, we experience other in a very different way. All of that stuff, that just rich, wonderful stuff, I feel is really what's missing from the travel and tourism world. So I want to bring you back to this image to again remember that physics principle applied to marketing. As emotional resonance increases, behavioral resistance decreases. And ultimately, this is what we do as marketers. Marketers are all about inspiring behavior. And if that is true, if you really buy into that, there are huge implications then on how do I bring emotional meaning into my brand's story? And that's that. I'm going to stop sharing now. There we go. Okay, so questions, thoughts, comments, claps? Confetti.
A little applause.
Come on, Babs. Where's Babs? I was relying on you for confetti. Wave your flags, Babs. Come on, girl.
There you go.
There you go. All right. Any questions?
So basically, since I'm waving my flag, this not only pertains to travel, but it also pertains, as you know, to everything else in life, our politics, our family relationships, and everything. But how did you get into this? Are you a psychology major? Tell us a little bit about yourself and what interests you to get into this.
Yeah, so I am not a psychologist. I am an academic trapped in a marketer's body. So I love to read books from disciplines outside of marketing: chemistry, physics, musicology, sociology, psychology, anthropology, the list goes on. Because I think we tend to see our audience as a target, right? And we forget they're human beings. And marketing is all about building relationships with people. And when it was back in 2011, I had to teach a 4-hour course on neuroscience and emotion, and I started reading a ton. And I thought, yeah, this stuff just makes sense. This is what we need to be doing in marketing. So I'm very passionate about helping people understand how unbelievably important emotion is, and really vulnerability. If you can make your brand vulnerable, people are going to be very drawn to it. Just as you as a human being, when you are vulnerable, your friends trust you more. It's the same in business. Excuse me.
How can a brand be vulnerable? What do you mean by that?
Here's a perfect example. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Vakaya, a travel and tourism company here in the United States. Those guys, they sent out an email to their audience about a month ago, and Ed and I looked at some of the stuff they were writing, and one of the things that they said in there that I thought was so brilliant was, hey, we have been really, really negatively impacted by COVID. We're a small business. In order for us to be here for you, we need you to be here for us. Something as simple as that. And it doesn't have to be vulnerability, doesn't have to be admitting a weakness, right? Or, it is just be human about how you talk about your business. And remember that you're talking to humans, and humans want to be touched emotionally, even though they may not necessarily even recognize that that's what's happening.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so Luann, I'm going to send you the presentation. Please feel free to send it out to anybody. Please forward it to anybody that was not on the call that you think would benefit from it. Yeah, I'll send it to Luann. She can send that out. This is great. Thank you so much, everybody, for letting me present.
Thank you so much, Christopher. It was really great. I'm seeing lots of comments popping up saying very insightful, so I know everyone enjoyed it.
Great.
And we'll also share a video of this as well. It'll be on the IGLTA Members Connect page, so you can see the presentation that way. And when Kristen sends out the follow-up emails, not meals. It's dinner time in London. I'm getting hungry. When she sends out the follow-up emails, she can also include the presentation as well.
Yes, Chris, if you could send me the presentation whenever it's convenient for you, I'll include that in the follow-up email tomorrow.
But I'm sure there must be at least one more question for Christopher while he's here.
Oh, question on massive calls are always awkward for people.
We don't usually have a shy group, though.
Well, if she'll also send out my contact information is in the back. So if you have any follow-up questions, you can always just email them to me as well.
I think you need to ask some people a question, and then they'll open up their mouths. They're so verbal about things. So okay, so let's take anyone. Dean, are you still there, or are you picking your berries? Dean?
I'm here.
All right, so Dean, how would you just take one or two things that he talked about, and how do you see how you could apply it? Because he did mention a gay ski week.
Yeah, so I loved what Christopher was saying about tapping into the emotional response rather than just being factual. Sometimes we get really caught up in our own heads saying, well, this is the information I want to get out there, and you don't really play to that emotion, and so it's like using the Vaikaya as a great example of being a small business, and hey, you know, we're here for you, but you need to be here for us as well, and applying that for us as travel agents or as a producer of a gay ski week. It's a great way to reconnect with our clients and just being top of mind and saying, hey, you know, we've always been here for you, and now we really need you to be here for us, and let's start dreaming about what it's going to look like in 2021 or 2022 if that gives you more confidence in creating that awareness or the confidence of travel again until things calm down.
Chris, I have a question for you. So, you know, a lot of destinations use attributes, you know, beach destinations. We have, you know, gorgeous beaches and palm trees, and, you know, our hotels use attributes. Do you have any examples that you've observed in tourism and hospitality marketing that are really exceptionally good in terms of using emotion to attract attention?
Yeah, it's a great question, Ed. I think that here's what, you know, I mean, so many destinations offer the exact same attributes, but no destination offers the same experience of the people. I got to tell you, one of the places that I've been to that I love because I think the people are what make the experience more than anywhere I've been is Puerto Rico. I have never met a people who are so proud, excited to share their cultural experience with anybody who's willing to listen. And if you've been to Puerto Rico, you know Puerto Ricans love to talk. They even love more to talk about their island and their world and how wonderful and special it is. And to me, you know, and again, it's even like a gay ski week, right? It's like where, you know, there's a huge difference between a gay ski week in Canada and a gay ski week in Utah and a gay ski week at Lake Tahoe. Those are very different experiences because you have a very different cultural microcosm in those places. And it is about, right, this is why some, you know, we can't go to every gay ski weekend, but we're going to go to the ones largely that's driven by the location and the experience of that particular place. So a lot of times we get caught up, as Dean said, we get caught up in talking about our facts and what we offer, and we don't think about the experience that they have within that specific culture of that location.
You know, I'd like to make the.
Oh, sorry. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're familiar at all with any of the advertising campaigns for Key West, for instance, we always play upon emotion, and I found the word vulnerability interesting because we use authenticity and credibility very much to back up what we talk about when we market this destination, oftentimes using humor. But if you look consistently at the last, say, 15 years of all of our campaigns, they're all based on emotion. The little bit of copy that follows under the header is used simply to underscore the authenticity and the credibility of that message. But it works. It clearly works. We consistently rank among the top LGBT preferred destinations and always have. And we've learned a long time ago that credibility and authenticity to that message is what finally makes the sale for us.
The great thing about that, Guy, thank you for sharing that, is if you are very clear on the emotional truths, the emotional meaning, what's emotionally meaningful to your audience, it allows you to create experiences within that destination that reflect that emotional meaning. And that's the power of having a clearly defined story territory or story universe for your business. Because once you know what that is, every single thing you do emanates from that space, including how you create experiences. So Jody, for you, for example, taking people all the way to Africa, if you really understand out of all the places people could go in the world, why are they drawn to Africa? Why are they drawn to your particular company to do it? You can then create experiences. Sometimes you can even just create individual moments for people. And that's another thing, right? As we all say, life is made up of small moments. That's what makes life rich. It creates the fabric of our existence. If we just live from one big experience to the next, we spend a lot of time being disappointed. And brands can do the exact same thing. Create little moments for your audience and for your guests. That creates loyalty.
I just want to echo what you said, Chris, and pretty much what everyone else has said. And thank you again for the presentation. But I rely heavily on emotion. In fact, almost 100% on emotion, because Africa, it seems to be, it's a scary destination for people. And so I have to work on fears around their safety, both with animals and with the people, and with, getting bitten by a random mosquito. But then also, I think there's an innate thing within us about Africa. There's some sort of something, and more people than not can, is that going to come out right? Most people cannot put their finger on what that is until they get there. And I've also experienced with guests that it doesn't occur until afterwards. But anyway, the point I want to make is that for me, emotion is huge in my marketing. And sometimes I think I get a little too woo-woo with some of the things that I say. But vulnerability is kind of where I like to go, and that I have to be very careful with how I do that because of the woo-woo component. I don't want people to go, oh my God, this is some lesbian talking about, all the woo-woo things happening in Africa, and which does happen to a lot of people. But so I'm trying to figure out myself, how do I make a sale, which is kind of it's not an emotional thing. The hard sell, talking about money is emotional, but yet it's not. And so that is another emotional. I have to get around people worrying about how much it costs and blah, blah, blah. And that's a phone call for another time. But so there's all the fabulous feelings that come with it. And then there's like, oh shit, it costs a lot to go to Africa. Excuse my language, but that's what people say.
Well, yeah, but what I would say, Jody, is you can't really separate those two, because the only reason you do woo-woo is to get people to give you money. I mean, let's be realistic about what we do. We sell shit.
Okay.
And we're here to make money. We don't build brands and do all this stuff because it makes us feel good at the end of the day. What makes us feel good is what our bank account looks like. So let's not shy away from the fact that we're all in this to make money. That's perfectly fine. But I think what I would say to kind of wrap that up, Jody, is this is where, there are only two ways to persuade people to do things. You can either manipulate them or you can inspire them. What we do in marketing across the board is we manipulate people. We manipulate them through price and packages and promotions and all that kind of stuff. And it's fine, but it does not differentiate your business. And it is fundamentally a race to the bottom. Okay, we're going to cut ours by 10%. Your competitor cuts it by 12, then you 14, and where does it end? Right? It's fundamentally a race to the bottom. Look what's happening in my boring world of consumer packaged goods and retailers, right? Online shopping and Amazon is kind of blowing everything up. Why? Because retailers and manufacturers hooked Americans, humans in general, on price promotion. It's a very slippery slope. So don't separate the emotional meaning from why you're here, which is to make money.
Well, I do have to say that a big part of what I do is to inspire people. In fact, that's probably higher than the making the money part. I want people to go home blown away.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Absolutely blown away. And I've had people go home and change their lives because of what happened on Safari. And all I did was hold the space. And Africa held the space. I really can't take any credit for it, but yeah, and it's nice to make some money at the end of the day. But ultimately, I want to change people.
Yeah.
Inspire people. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, sharing those stories with people. I don't know how much you do that, you know, where you ask people, hey, can you share the story of how this impacted you? What did you change in your life? What did this do for you? I think that's the type of stuff people want to know. And you're right. I love what you said. You can't really put your finger on Africa until you've been.
Right. Yeah.
So let the people who have been to Africa share those stories.
Very good. Thank you.
I didn't think that Jody was going to let you get away with that all for money, Christopher. I had something to say about that.
I love the fact that she pushed that you pushed back, Jody. Right? If we honestly, if companies focused on inspiring, the money comes much more easily. And there's so much data that actually proves that. Companies who focus on emotional meaning, they have a much higher stock price than their competitors. They have higher profits. They have higher employee retention. They have higher brand awareness and brand loyalty. I mean, this is all proven. This is not just stuff I came up with and said, hey, let's give this a go. Companies all over the world are already doing this, and it's generating significant return for them. But like Jody, what they learned, and take Lego, for example. Lego's the perfect example. They were literally months away from being bought by someone until they figured out, well, maybe we should stop making toys and start appealing to why kids play. And it's all about their imagination. So I totally agree. I think Jody's headed in the right direction.
I have one question again regarding that. Is that okay? That
Yeah,
I
of
ask?
course.
When you mentioned about the word inspire and what it really means emotionally, doesn't that fit into really values and the beliefs? Because the word inspire to a Trump voter is completely different inspire to somebody who is not on that side of what's going on. So how do we, as trying to reach the demographic group or try to find them, figure that one out? Because don't you really want to be presenting this to people who have the same kind of understanding of the beliefs and value that you're trying to portray?
Yeah, absolutely, Bab. So the best way to do it is obviously talk to the people who are within your audience, right? And find out what is emotionally meaningful to them. And when you understand what that is, and then you reflect that back to them, it's going to automatically resonate with them. They may not even really know why. And quite honestly, you don't want them to consciously understand what just happened. Because the minute that you consciously understand what happened, you're no longer inspired. Now you're thinking logically about it, which is fine, because then it comes back to what Jody said, which is after the woo-woo comes the, now we got to talk about money. Perfectly fine. But the more you inspire them in the first part, the easier that money conversation is going to be for most people.
And as a travel agent, I'm finding that many travel agents don't talk to their clients anymore because everything is done so virtually. And also the organizations or the consortiums that we belong to, everything is done through, their back of the house systems. And that's really hard sometimes to understand. So I think it's still important. And there's a few agents out there that really talk to potential clients and not just hang up on them when you don't have the price point for them.
Yeah, it's a great point, Babs. Very true.
Hey, this is John. Russell's trying to ask a question. Russell, do you see how to mute yourself?
Hey, Russell, sorry.
Yeah.
You're at the bottom of my thing, and I couldn't get your name to call on you. So go ahead.
Okay, it's okay. It's okay. I'll work my way to the top slowly but surely. Forgive me for being late, and if I say something that's not appropriate, feel free to cut me off. I caught the part what you said about content and life-changing experiences and such. In my work in incoming tourism here in Israel and our region, life-changing experiences is what it's all about. It's not about booking a seat on a bus or booking a seat on a cruise, with all due respect, which are very important aspects of our industry. I have to speak to the family, speak to the people, speak to the couple. Are they religious? Are they not religious? Are they politically inclined? Do they want to go to Jewish sites, to Catholic sites, to Lutheran sites, to Quaker sites? To, you know, what do they want out of it? Do they want to partake in a mass? Do they want a private mass? Do they want to visit Palestinians? I have groups. I have a group at a particular LGBTQ organization in the States that come twice a year, and they visit a refugee camp in the West Bank. And they learn to do debka dancing with them. We go to Jordan and we hear what their, you know, people that left Israel or what was then Palestine in 48, how do they feel? How does they relate? It's all about people to people. Yes, we have many sites to see. You can go to Masada, you can go to the Dead Sea, you can go to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, all sites to see. But without that people thing, and it's not only true in here in Israel, but there are many places where my partner and I, Avi and I, have traveled, be it to in India and in Vietnam and all kinds of places where it's all about the people to people meeting and life, what you call the life-changing experience. Yes, I need to make my profit. I have my profit margin. I know what I need to make in order to support the office and keep me doing what I'm doing. But and I'm all very happy when I see that this is the amount of money that I spent and this is the amount of money that came in, and that difference is my profit. But nothing gives me more professional and personal satisfaction than getting that email from this family or that couple or whoever. Russell, we've been all over the world. The trip that you put together with us is something that will stand out in our lives forever.
That's great. I mean, I think that's exactly what everybody needs to be doing. And maybe everybody is doing that, and that's wonderful.
There are many doing it. There are many people like me in different destinations that I know I'm in good contact with that do exactly that.
Yeah, it's great. Andrew. You're on mute. You're on mute, Andrew, I think.
No, it's not.
He's not on mute, but we just can't hear him.
Maybe
He's been having trouble right from the beginning. When he first came on, he couldn't talk.
Andrew, do you want to type your question in the chat? No, we can't hear you.
He looks very upset too.
Sorry.
Don't take it personally.
I'll go back to T-Dance and P-Town. Well,
Andrew does not like to be muted.
Chris, I think it's really interesting everything you've been saying, and to put it in the context of COVID right now, and especially when we see what a lot of the major global hospitality brands are doing, such as the airlines. You know, I'm thinking of Delta Clean and the hotels, Hilton and Marriott, and their cleanliness programs also. I mean, they're really touching on the emotional experience, and they're really communicating on that emotional level. Yes, they're talking about the information portion of it, but that's all really couched in the emotional aspect of it.
Absolutely, right? Especially right now, you know, people need to feel safe. But the reality is, though, and I'll just throw this out here, the reality is, I don't care, you know, how long and how many caveats and things Jody says, for example, about going to Africa, or what airlines say about traveling during COVID, or hotels or shared accommodations. You cannot absolutely guarantee everything. And I think it's okay to say, look, we're going to take every step we possibly can to assure your safety, but hey, we can't, you know, and again, that goes back to that vulnerability thing, right? That goes back to the willingness to say, wait, we can't promise you everything, but we're going to do our damnedest to make sure that you have a completely safe and wonderful experience. And I think people like that. I think it actually really builds trust because it's transparent, right? So many companies today they want us to believe that they're going to do everything perfectly when we know there's no way that's ever going to happen, right? And how you craft the language around that can be incredibly important, but it can be incredibly trust building.
Especially right now when everybody is feeling very, very vulnerable themselves too. So there's that shared vulnerability, if I can pronounce that.
Yeah, right, exactly. Shared vulnerability. That's a great way of putting it, right? That's the best way to say it. Shared vulnerability. This is why your best friend is your best friend, because you have shared vulnerability.
Well, you can use that. Just credit me.
Okay. All right. Anything else? I think we are up to our witching hour, I think.
Andrew placed his question. I'm sorry, Kristen. I'll shut my mouth.
Andrew put a question in chat. He says, I just want to defend the virtual world for a moment. If you want to find out about your values, check the people who like you on social media and see what else they like. Tours in 2016, we started a fairly overtly feminist tour called Nasty Women of the Metropolitan. We were nervous about it, but then we checked our followers' likes and we found that they were 80% plus way on the left. Oh, Chris, you're on mute.
Okay, sorry about that. I had to make the phone stop ringing. So, yeah, well, right. See, here's a perfect example. You threw something out there and you found out that people actually really responded to it. That's great, right? That's great. But this really comes down to how well you understand your audience. And, you know, here's the other thing you have to remember that I think this makes this much easier. First, you don't need to talk to everybody in your audience. If you actually frame the research and the questions, if you talked to 30 people, chances are you're going to be good to go. But here's the great thing. There are going to be two aspects to this target. One is by plucking that E string to the best of your ability for those people that you spoke to, and the people, there's going to be a group of people that's really going to resonate for them. There is then going to be the secondary target that goes around that. Maybe it won't resonate 100%, but it's going to resonate enough to pull them into your audience. So the great thing about I think Russell, what you're saying, for example, right, which is, look, if I really understand what's the experience that you want, and really when you say what's the experience you want, what you're asking is what's emotionally meaningful to you. And then how do I make sure I'm crafting the experience around what is emotionally meaningful to you? And when you identify what that E string is, you'll be surprised that does not shrink, because a lot of people always ask me, well, how do I know how many people that's really applicable? You will find that it actually makes your audience and your target much bigger than what you may imagine.